this is written, answer is BCD. This is BCD is L3, and to that L3 we have to append head of the first argument, and the head of the first argument is my original call. Actually, this is matching the original call. That is actually in our example. It is A. Is A. Yeah. Just a minute. I'll show you. Yeah. Just a minute. Yeah. So that was the outer call. Head of the first argument is A, and this value, this redo is successful with the value BCD, that is line number 2. And so that L3 in line number 1 is BCD, and to that X is appended, and X in the first argument is A, that will generate the answer A, B, C, D. That will give us answer A, B, C, D. Finally is written, this L3 value is BCD, and that to BCD head of the this argument, first argument is A, so that becomes ABCD, and now the call is successful. Third argument stores the answer. The answer is ABCD. That is how AB is attached to CD to generate answer ABCD. Mayank, if you understood that. Yeah, you are already writing. Mayank, is that clear? ABCD is the answer. Okay. Anyone having any doubt? Any student having any kind of doubt? I'll not forget today. I'll share these notes today so that member earlier discussions plus these execution tests that will be readable to you. You can read them. Any student having any doubt? Is that clear to others? You can share your answer so that I can stop the discussion. We can stop today's lecture. I'm waiting for your answers. More students? Janik is saying yes. Okay. Okay. Fine. Gata, fine. First time listening from you, Gata. Okay. Okay, fine. I'll share the notes. I'll not forget that. And you can see that. We can discuss any doubts in the next lecture tomorrow. Today itself, I'll share these slides. Thank you.
Hello everyone, good afternoon to all of you. I hope I am audible to you and also you can see the PowerPoint presentation on your screen. Okay, thank you. So I hope you remember that in PC we are discussing optimizing transformations. Okay, and what we did in the last lecture was that we were working with this flow graph. Okay, I hope that all of you are taking notes or you have reference to the slides which have been shared previously. So you know that this was the flow graph with which we were working, right? And now what we want to do is we had applied an iterative algorithm, if you remember, right? Now, after applying the iterative algorithm, what we had was the in values for all the blocks, right? We had computed also the out values, but they were required to compute in values. So finally, we are concerned with what expressions are available at entry to a particular block, which is indicated by this in. Okay. Now let's see that what we are going to do with this in. This AE in, or in simply we will call it in, is a data flow function, okay, which we have computed, okay. And now what we want to do is we want to go for global common sub expression elimination. We have already done local common sub local common sub expression elimination has already been done, and we are having values of AE in. Now what we are going to do is how we are going to use this one will be done by this procedure. Now we had already discussed this procedure in previous class, but just so that you are more comfortable with all the steps, I'm going to very quickly take an overview of this procedure that we will follow. For each block, we have to do the task, and for each and every expression that is present in the inset that we have computed previously, okay, with the help of our iterative algorithm. Now what we will do is we will first locate the evaluation of that expression which is part of AE in the block I. If it is found, only then we will go for the next step. Otherwise, from step number one itself, you don't have to continue the procedure and you can go for the next expression. Okay, if the expression is found, located, then we will search backwards for the first occurrence, so that what we want to determine whether any of the operands of the expression have been previously assigned to the block. So in that block itself, if it has been assigned, then it is not a candidate for global common sub expression. Then we have to move ahead to another expression. Okay, now we have found that it is a global common sub expression. Then what we will do is we will search backwards in the flow graph to find the occurrences of the expression, okay, in this format, where the expression is assigned to some variable, let's call it v, okay. And because of that, this expression is part of our inset, okay. So now these are the final occurrences of the expression in their respective blocks. Each of them must flow unimpaired, means there must not be any change to the entry of the block, and every flow path from entry block to the block I must include at least one of them. Okay, so all the occurrences that we have, okay, at least one of them must be in every flow path. So from entry to that block, that expression must be there. Then what we will do, we will take a temporary variable, and then we will replace the expression in the first instruction by tj, or the temporary variable, okay, we will just name it t1, t2 and so on, right? And we will replace each instruction that uses the expression, okay, which we have identified in the previous step by this particular expression, that is we will assign the expression to tj. Are you following this one? The procedure is very simple. Okay, so now let's just go for its application step by step. Now what we are doing is we are applying this procedure to the given flow graph, and we are taking into account one block after the other. So over here you can see that in entry, as it is, the inset of entry is 5, as it is the first block, okay, and also the inset of block b1 is 5, because from entry there are no expressions which become available in block B1. That is why this set is 5. So there is no expression suitable for global common sub-expression elimination in B1. So we don't have to do anything for entry and B1. Now let's move to the next step, taking into account block 2. So in set of block 2, B2 is having three elements. We are having three expressions. So let's take one by one each expression. So first expression is a plus b. It is belonging to this set. And if you have a look at the flow graph, you find that a plus b is found in B2. Also, B and A, none of them have been assigned previously in the block. In B2, there is no assignment of A or B before this particular expression is found. Now we search backwards and we find that this instruction is present in block B1. So what we will do in block B1, we will replace it by AB assigned to T1, T1 assigned to C, and in block B2, what we will do is we will assign T1 to f of I. So this is how there will be a change in our flow graph as described. Okay. Now we will move on to the next two expressions in our set. A into C is present in of B2, but A into C is not found or located in B2. So we will skip it. Next is D into D. It is present in our set, but it is not found in B2, so we don't have to take any further steps. So for in of B2, all the expressions we have taken into consideration. So now we will move ahead to the next block, that is in of B3. Again over here we are having three elements, and none of these three elements are found in B3. Okay. So moving further, in block B4, okay, what we have is A plus B, A into C, it is not found, but D into D is found in block 4. So now what we have to do? We have to take into account whether D has been assigned previously in the block. No, as it is in this block, there is only one expression. Okay, there is only one instruction. So now we will search backwards, and what we will do is we have found that D into D is present in B1. So now what we will do is we will find this instruction in B1, we will replace it by a temporary variable, okay, and then we will make the necessary changes in the further blocks by replacing the expression by T2. Okay, so now we observe that this is the change, right? Now we are having a look at block 5. Now A plus B, A into C, and D into D, okay, all of them are present in the in set, but they are not found in B5. Okay, so we don't have to take any of these into account. And finally, what we have is after the global common sub expression, we see that whatever expressions have been computed, okay, they are uh, they are changed in this flow graph, okay, and we see that we have used two temporary variables T1 and T2 for the global common sub expression elimination. Following this, okay. So the technique we had already discussed, partially the description also we had discussed in the last class, right? So this should be your final answer, okay, after global common sub expression elimination. Are you all following this one? Any query? If you are computing it along the lecture, okay, in your notebooks, then please verify your answer whether you are getting this flow graph as a result of global common sub expression elimination. Any student having any doubt? May I assume that everybody is getting it? Okay, fine. There is only one student acknowledging that they have understood. I'm assuming that everybody has understood it. I'll be sharing the slides, so if later on, if you have any queries, okay, we can sort it out. Okay, if there are. Fine. Moving ahead with next type of transformation, that is copy propagation. Now, many a times before we go for common expression elimination, uh, you may have copy propagation which is uh, done. So what happens in copy propagation is that it is a transformation that given an assignment y assigned to x for some variables x and y, this transformation replaces the later uses of x with the uses of y, because now what the value of x is, it is the value of y. So instead of writing x, we can directly write variable y, as long as the intermediate or intervening instructions have not changed the value of either x or y, otherwise the meaning will change. Okay, so meaning of your code should not change by any of these transformations. Following this? Okay, so simply what we want to do is we want to eliminate assigning value of y to x at later stage, rather than wherever we find x we will replace it by y. This is what we want to do. Okay, now this copy propagation, okay, we can understand it better with this particular example. I think you all can see the example on your screen, wherein on the left side we have a copy assignment assigning value of a to b in block b1. Now in block B1, there are some instructions wherein B variable is used. So now it will be taking value of A. Also in further blocks, that is not the same block, but in B2 and B3 as well, we are having value of B. Now B will take value of A until B becomes X. So now if the value of B is not changed, that we will determine with the help of some steps, then what we will do is, as you can see on the right hand side, as a result of copy propagation, after a value has been assigned to b, wherever b is used, we are replacing it by a. Are you all following this one? Okay, so this is what we call as copy propagation. Okay, so now, just like common sub-expression elimination, copy propagation also can be divided into local and global phases. Okay, local, you will definitely understand that we are talking about a single or individual basic block, and global, we are talking about the entire flow graph. Okay, also there can be a technique in which copy propagation is accomplished in a single global phase. So you can do copy propagation in two ways. Either is first you do it individually for all the basic blocks, that is you perform local copy propagation. Then you go for global copy propagation, taking into account local is already done, or you have a single global phase in which you have an algorithm, you have a technique in which effect of local and global is done simultaneously, or it is done together. Okay, so now let's understand that what happens when we are talking about copy propagation and how this algorithm is applied. Here we have an example of a basic block containing 5 instructions. Now these instructions are the ones that you see in column number 2. Column 1 is showing the position of the instruction in the block. There are 5 instructions, so we are having 5 positions. Now each instruction, okay, you will be able to see in the code before column, that is the second column. The third column is showing the value of ACP. Now, what is the meaning of ACP? It means that what copy propagation is available at this stage. Okay, so in short, we will call it ACP, okay, standing for available copy propagation, right? And after we apply ACP, okay, what will be the code? Okay, so that is indicated by the fourth column. So let us try to understand this image. Okay, see, initially ACP will be empty. There wouldn't be any available copy propagation. Now, in instruction one, A is assigned to B. So now we are having one element in our ACP set. Okay, but that does not change our instruction. A assigned to B remains as it is. Now let's look at the second instruction, wherein B plus 1 is assigned to C. Okay, so here our set remains the same, okay, because there are no further copy instructions available. But what we have is, in our instruction we have B, which can be which is to be replaced by A. So you can have a look in the fourth column for instruction 2, that instead of B we see A. Following this, everybody? Okay. Now let's move to the third instruction, wherein value of B is assigned to D. Previously, what was there? A was assigned to B, okay, but A is not changed, nor B is changed, but now value of B is assigned to D. So we have one more addition in our ACP set, that is, we already had B comma A, meaning A is to be put in place of B. Okay, so B is to be replaced by A. You can put it in any way. Now D is to be replaced by A. Now why A? Why not B? In our ACP set, what we are discussing is, we are looking at position number 3. Now in this set we have another element added, which is D comma A, meaning A is to be replaced wherever D is. So why do we do that? Because we already have one available copy propagation that says B comma A. So D is replaced by B and B is ultimately replaced by A. So finally D is replaced by A, and hence our instruction changes to A assigned to D. Following this one? Okay. Available or currently available, all copy propagations must be taken into account. That is why we continuously maintain this ACP set. Are you all following this one? Okay. Now let's move ahead to the fourth instruction, wherein D plus C is assigned to B. Okay. So now here what happens? Value of B is modified. Correct, value of B is modified. So that is why what we do is, if you observe the ACP set, B comma A is now removed from the set. We are removing this element from the set ACP, and then code after applying ACP is A plus C is assigned back to B. Are you all getting this one? Correct? Okay, now let's move ahead. So now after fourth instruction, in this basic block, this is a single basic block which we are taking into account. Value of our ACP set is having only one element. Now let's move ahead to the last instruction of our basic block, wherein value of D is assigned to B. Okay. So value of D is not changed, but now value of B is changing. So now what we need to do? What is the value of D? D is now, D is actually taking value of A. That is our copy propagation. Okay. Now that value again goes to B. So again we add the element B comma A into our ACP, and what assignment we do? We assign A to B. So this will be our code after applying available copy propagation algorithm. Are you all following this? So what are the key points that we observe over here? Whenever any assignment is made, okay, then it gets added into the ACP set. If the value is modified, then that element is to be removed. And while making a copy propagation, we have to take into account all the available copy propagations which are indicated by the ACP set. Getting this, everybody? Okay. So now this is what we took an example of only 5 instructions. Now let's see if we are given a flow graph containing more than one basic block. Let us see how we can apply this transformation. Okay, so now I'm going to show you one more. We will take an example that this is the flow graph before copy propagation on which we want to apply this ACP technique. Getting this, everybody? Okay, so here you can see at many places assignments are made. Okay, so now let's see how we are going to apply. Okay. So first and foremost, what we are going to do is we will apply the local copy propagation on each block. Okay. And then we will go for global copy propagation. Fine. So here you can see that as there are no instructions in the entry block, so ACP is an empty set. It is 5. Now moving ahead to block B1. So now when we entered into the block, ACP was 5. Okay. But then taking into account one by one instructions, okay, the value of ACP set has now one more element is added at position number 2. C is assigned to D. So we have an element D comma C. Are you following this one, everyone? Okay. And what will be the change of code? There will be no change for this particular instructions. But now let's look at the next instruction that says E is assigned value of D into D. But now if you have a look at the ACP set, we are having an element that says D is to be replaced by C. So now the code after applying ACP gives us an instruction C into C assigned to E. Are you all following this one? Getting this? Okay. So now can you try for block B2? Okay. Apply this for block B2 and tell me the final value of ACP for block B2. Now you have to remember that whenever you start working upon a block, ACP will be a empty set, okay, because we are working on local copy propagation. We have to focus on one block at a time. Okay. So repeating my question, what you are supposed to do, what you need to do is you need to apply local copy propagation on block B2 and see if you are getting the answers which I'm going to show you in the next slide. So I'm going to wait for a minute or two. Okay. And once you have your answers, okay, please notify and then I will change the slide and you can compare your answers. Okay, the set has been correctly identified. Now, will there be any change in any instruction because of this application of ACP? Yes, very good. The third instruction will change, and what the change will be is given by Maliha, and it is a correct answer. Okay, rest of you just verify whether you are getting the same. Okay, see, as such, this is not difficult. We just need to remember only one concept that if a variable is replaced by another variable, then we need to consider that as an element of ACP and modify our instructions. So let us compare the answers. Yes, it is absolutely correct as you have said. Okay, we can also verify it in our slide. Okay, that ACP contains one member G comma E, meaning E is to be replaced wherever G is. So we have G in the third instruction. Okay, so E plus D is assigned to A. Rest of all the instructions will remain as it is. Okay, correct? Now let's move ahead to the next block. Now see, in the next block there is only one instruction. Okay, and it doesn't. It is not satisfying the constraint of copy propagation. Okay, so ACP will remain empty. Okay, because an assignment is done as G plus 1 is assigned to H. Okay, if this instruction would have been something like this, G is assigned to H, though there is only one instruction, then our ACP will change. But over here, ACP is not modified, it still remains empty. Okay, now let's move ahead to the fourth block, block B4. Now over here also, there is no change in any of the instructions as well as our ACP remains empty. Also, now let's have a look at block B5. Okay, now in B5 we are having two instructions and none of these instructions are meeting the criteria for copy propagation. So our ACP remains empty and the code remains unchanged. Having a look at the last block before exit, that is B6. Again over here a constant value is being assigned. Okay, so it is not copy propagation. We need to have X assigned to Y or Y assigned to X kind of instruction. So it doesn't satisfy. ACP is unchanged. Okay, and it is still an empty set. Exit doesn't contain anything. Okay, this is just for the sake of completion that we write. Otherwise, for entry and exit, ACP will still remain an empty set. Okay, so finally what we have done is we have applied local copy propagation to this flow graph. And before copy propagation, local copy propagation, this was our flow graph, okay, which on which we worked. And after copy propagation, there were two changes made, in one in block B1 and the second one in block B2. Okay, so this is what local copy propagation. Okay, so this is as such very simple, but still our copy propagation is not complete because after applying local, we also need to go for global copy propagation. Okay, so now let us try to understand what and how global copy propagation is supposed to be done. To perform global copy propagation, we first do a data flow analysis to determine which copy assignment reaches reach uses of their left hand side variables unimpaired, that is without having either variable redefined in between. So if there is any change in the variable, then it is not satisfying our criteria. Now for applying global copy propagation, we need to work with two sets, that is copy and kill. This is very similar to the concept of eval and kill which we used in previous transformation. Okay, so same way what we have to do, we need to define these two sets. What the copy of I set will consist of, it will consist of the instances of copy assignments occurring in the block I that reach to the end of block I, means they are not modified in between. Fine. And we define kill set to be the set of copy assignments that are killed by block I. So when does an assignment get killed? When any of the variables into that we are having in our assignment gets modified. Then that assignment, copy assignment, is part of kill set. Okay. So now what we are going to do is, now this copy and kill set, okay, they are defined as quadruples. Okay. So whenever we are using set notation to represent our copy set and kill set, okay, we will use a quadruple. Means each element will consist of four entities. Okay, first one is U and second one is V. These will indicate that the copy assignment is of the form V is assigned to U. I is the block that in which we are in which the assignment is taking place, and POS, that is indicative of the position in the block I where the assignment is made. And we need to check that neither U or V are assigned later in the block I. If they are later assigned, then it is not copy propagation. Okay. Now let's move ahead. For kill set, it is again a set of quadruples. Here U, V, block and position. Okay. So now here the block is not same as I. If you observe, when we talked about copy set, okay, the entry in the quadruple was the block itself. But here, what this block is indicating, just try to understand that this quadruple is indicative of the copy assignment occurring at a particular position in block BLK. So it will not be the block in which it is found, but because of an assignment where means the position where it is occurring in block BLK, and because of that it is part of kill set. Okay, so this we need to remember. Fine. And what we will do is we will find copy and kill for our given flow graph. So first and foremost, let us go for copy. Okay. For each block, that is entry B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6 and exit, okay, first and foremost find the copy set. Okay, you need to use this particular notation U comma V comma I. Okay, copy is relatively simple. Okay, so that is why first we will go for the copy set. Okay, once the copy set is available to you, okay, just let me know. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the answers for the copy set. Okay, please compare it with what you have calculated yourself. Okay, now here I'm showing you the copy set using the set notation. Now, as you can know, or as you can see very well, in block B1 and B2 only there is some copy assignment made. So rest of all the blocks, copy set will be an empty set, and we have only one element in each block B1 and B2. Now, apart from the set notation, okay, we can also use vector notation. Okay, and vector notation is very easy to read and comprehend. Okay, so let's see that our copy set, okay, how it is represented using vector representation. So our bit position, first bit position will indicate the entry, will indicate the element D comma C, B1 comma 2, and the second bit position will indicate G comma E, B2 comma 2. Now, what is the meaning of this B1 and B2 where this copy assignment is made, and the last value, that is 2, in both the cases it is indicative of the position in block B1 and B2 respectively, right? So now if you have a look at our copy set, okay, using the vector representation, 0 0 will be there for all the entry B3, B4, B5, B6 and exit. And for B1 and B2, the vector representation will have the value as 1, 0 and 0, 1. Following this everybody? Okay. So likewise, we will have a look at what are the kill values for all the blocks. Okay. I hope all of you are getting this one. Okay. As we are having more as our element is a quadruple, vector representation is very easy and compact way of representation. Okay, so over here for copy propagation, vector representation is more popular, but you can go for any notation. Set notation is also fine. Okay, that is also valid. Now let's have a look at what are our kill sets using our set notation. Okay, so in the kill set, what we have is, for entry there isn't any element, okay, but for block B1, okay, we have one element in our kill set that says G comma E, B2 comma 2. Okay, so why we are having this as our element of kill set? Because if you observe, in block B1 value of E is getting changed, correct? D into D is assigned to E, so value of E gets modified. Okay, so that is why G comma E of B2 position 2 gets killed in block B1. Same way, if you have a look at block B6, then in B6 value of C is getting changed because of the constant 2 being assigned to C. And in block B1, C was assigned to D. So ultimately value of D will also change if this instruction is encountered of block 6. That is why it is a kill. This element is in the kill set of B6. While in blocks B2, B3, B4, B5, okay, no such occurrence is found. Are you following this one? All of you? You can just verify for all the blocks. Okay, and if you have any doubt or question, okay, you can ask at this point. And then also try to go for the vector representation of kill set. Okay, can you tell me the vector representation of kill set for entry B2, B3, B4, B5 and exit? It will be 0, 0, right? What will be the value for B1 and B6? Can you tell me? Okay, if you are not getting anything, or if you feel it is going a bit fast, or whatsoever is the case, okay, please type in the chat area, okay, so that I know what is going on, okay, whether you are getting it or not. Okay. So you have not understood kill portion. Okay. Fine. What about copy? Copy was easy. Copy, you have got it. Let's assume that. Okay. Let's go back to the definition. What we need to do, we need to find such a copy assignment occurring at a position in block which is not equal to I. Okay, we need to find such a copy assignment, okay, that we will put into the set of quadruples. So it must be first and foremost a copy assignment. So all the copy assignments we have already found when we found the copy set. Getting this, everybody? Okay, I hope there is no doubt in the copy set how we are getting the copy set. Whenever we are having a copy assignment, okay, that element is to be put in the copy set. Simple enough. Okay, now let's try to have a look at the copy set for all the blocks. Now we need to take into account only two copy assignments. One is uh, C assigned to D in block B1 and E assigned to G in block B2. Okay. Now what we will do is for all the kill sets, we need to keep these two copy assignments in our mind and see that whether any of the variable gets changed in our block. If yes, then we need to put the copy assignment in our kill set. Okay, so now let's have a look at block B1. Okay, in block B1, value of G or value of E, is it getting changed? Yes, value of E is getting changed because D into D will give us a different value of E. Okay, so that is why what we do is G comma E goes into the kill set of B1. Fine. Now, if you have a look at other blocks, that is B2, B3, B4, B5, okay, you will not find any such assignment, right? So all these sets are empty. None of the copy propagation is getting killed over here. But if you have a look at B6, okay, value of C is getting changed. Yes. So what we have to focus, value of E or C getting changed in any of the blocks. If it is, then we need to make an entry in the kill set. Are you all following this one? Okay. So value of C is getting changed in block B6. That is why D comma C comma B1 comma 2. Okay, this is our copy assignment. Okay, it is part of kill set. Following this? Okay. Anybody else? Any doubt? See, like in the previous algorithm, okay, previous technique, if you don't have these set found correctly, okay, then you will definitely make a mistake in the further steps. Okay, so this must be clear. Thank you, Devang. You have got it. That's good to know. Okay, now still using our vector representation goes like this. Fine. Okay. So I think this is very clear. I don't have to explain how we have got this vector representation. Okay. So we have our copy set and kill set for all the blocks. Getting this? Okay, let's move further. Now we need to first and foremost initialize CP in. So what copy propagations are available at entry to our block, okay, that we want to find out. Okay, so what we will do is first we will initialize CP in. If CP in is entry, then our set will be 5. Otherwise, our CP in will be the union of all the copy assignments, okay, which we have found in all the blocks. So it will be a union of copy I for all I. So for all the blocks. Correct. So now let's see that what will be CP in for all the blocks. As you can see over here, B1 to exit all the blocks will have two elements. CP in will have two elements. Okay, and vector notation will be 1 1, and CP in of entry will be an empty set. This is what we will take as initial value of CP in. Okay. Now what we are going to do, let us look at the data flow equations for CP in and CP out. Okay. So now let us understand what is CP in. As I already told you that if a copy assignment is available on entry to a block, okay, then it is represented in CP in, and what we need to take care is that it is available as exit from all its predecessors, right? And hence it will be obtained by taking an intersection of out of the predecessors for that particular block. Now let's have a look at what is CP out. CP out means all the copy assignments that are available on exit from a block. So when we can say that they are available, if they are either in copy or they are available on entry and they are not killed by the block. Okay. So here we will have to take an union of copy union in of the block minus kill of the block. So if it is in and not in kill, okay, then it is available, right? So this is very very similar to the data flow equation that we had seen previously for the previous transform. Okay, so these are the data flow equations that we are going to follow. Okay, are you all getting this one? Yes, fine. Now let me take one iteration before I conclude the lecture, because I did not get a full 1 hour to complete the topics I wanted to complete today. Okay, so what we are going to do is we will take one iteration, and if further iteration is required, that you will try yourself and we will discuss in next class. Okay, so now please understand that these are the data flow equations we need to apply. Okay, now before we start applying, okay, this is our forward problem. Okay, so what order we follow, okay, that may result into change in our output. Okay, so in which direction we are going to take our workflow, okay, is in this example I am taking reverse post order, meaning in simple terms we will call it pre-order, that each block is taken before its successor. Okay, so we have all the necessary predecessor value before we compute any value for a particular block. Following, so this order we will take. So one of the order, okay, possible for this flow graph is entry B1, B2, B4, B6, B3 and B5. Okay, so when we compute entry, there is no predecessor, but for B1, predecessor is an entry which is already computed. Then we will take into consideration B2. B2's predecessor is B1, it is already done. Okay, fine. So this is the order that we are going to follow. Okay, so each block is to be done before its successor, right? So successor of B2 is B3 and B4. So before B3 and B4, B2 must be done. So B2 is done immediately after B1, okay, and so on. Okay, so multiple flow list or work list is possible. This is the order we are going to follow for our example, right? So we are going to apply our iterative analysis for the entry block. For entry, CP will be 0 0. Okay, now let's take into consideration block B1. Okay, because we have decided the order as entry B1, B4, B6, B3, and B5. Okay, so entry is the predecessor of B1. So in our data flow equation, we will have the value of entries into account. Okay, and CP in of B1 is 0, 0. Following. Same goes for B2. Okay. For B2, B2's predecessor are B1 and B5. Okay. So we have to take an intersection of the data flow equations for B1 and B5. Okay. So by doing all the necessary computations, okay, the answer we have is CP in of B2 is 1, 0. Right. Now doing these calculations, okay, these are simply set notations that you have to follow, set operations. Okay, so that we are not discussing in detail, you can just verify it from the slide. Next is, we will take into account after B2 we will take B4. Okay, B2 is the predecessor of B4, so B2 will be part of our data flow analysis equation. Fine. Next we will take B6, and after that we will take B3, and after that we will take B5. Are you all following this one? And then finally exit. And after this pass is over, first pass was the initial value that we had computed using the formula. Okay, now after this iteration is over, which we will call as second pass after the initialization, these are the final values of CP in. Now if we observe that for pass 1 and 2, CP in is not same, right? So there is some change which is to be done. Okay, it is not the final values, so we will take one more iteration. Okay, so we will apply a third pass for all the blocks. So all of you will calculate the third pass and see whether a change is needed or not. If it is needed, then go for the fourth pass and see if change is needed or not. Okay, so this you will try and we will compare the answers in the next class. So up to this, okay, I will share the notes with you. Please compare your answers, and whenever you find time before the next class, okay, just try to compute the next iteration. Okay, are you having any doubts? Okay, then that can be taken. Otherwise, I will conclude the lecture right now. So please notify if you have any queries or any point that requires repetition in next class. Okay, you can just ask that as well. Okay, it seems that you are not having any queries, right? So I'm just stopping the presentation right now and ending the meeting from my side. In next class, please make sure that you find the answers for the next iteration so that we can directly compare the answers. Okay, so I'm stopping the presentation. Have a nice day, all of you.